So we're going to find the midpoint between two different coordinate points. So if you're told two separate points, so for example here I've got this point and this point, then I can use this to help me to find the middle of the line. So if I was to measure the line and find the midpoint, then it will help me find that coordinate. And the formula that we use for this is basically finding the average of the x and then finding the average of the y. And to find an average, we add them together and divide by how many we've got. So we're going to add together the two coordinates for x and divide by 2, and then add together to the two y coordinates and divide by 2. So for example, for this question, the first coordinate that we see is 3, 5. And the second coordinate that we've got is 10, 10, 10. And therefore we can now find the midpoint between them. So we take the two x coordinates first and divide by 2. So the two x coordinates are 3 plus 10. So that's the average of the x. And then we're going to do the same for the y. So the y coordinates are 5 and 10. And notice that I'm keeping them in the same order. So I'm using this coordinate first and then this coordinate. So I've got the 3 and the 5 first and then the 10, 10 second. It doesn't really matter on this equation, but in later ones it will. So I've then got 13 divided by 2 and 15 divided by 2. And that gives me my final coordinate, or I can change it into a decimal, which would give me 6.5 and then 7.5. And I can check on here. So 6.5 and 7.5. So for example, it says find the coordinates of the midpoint for the two coordinates -1, 3 and 4, 7. So we know that we need to add the x coordinates together, so the -1 and the 4. And again, notice that I'm keeping them in the same order. I'm using this one first, this one second. So -1 and 4, and then I've got the 3 and the 7. So I'm just adding them together and dividing by 2. -1 plus 4 is 3. And then 7 plus 3 is 10. And then that gives me my final answer if I wanted to change it to a decimal of 1.55. And that would then be my midpoint as the final answer. So the second question here is a little bit trickier, and we need to be quite careful thinking this one through. So I'm going to just draw it out to help me. So I'm just going to draw a very rough set of axes. And it says that M is the midpoint of AB, and I'm having to find the coordinates of B. So A is 6, 4. So very roughly, that's somewhere here, 6, 4. And M is the coordinate 3 minus 1. So very roughly, that's somewhere here. And I'm trying to find B. Now M is the middle of the line AB. So that must mean that B is somewhere down here for M to be in the middle. So I've got the coordinate A, which is 6, 4, the midpoint 3 minus 1, and then B. So I now need to try to find where is B. So there's two different ways to do this. The first one is using kind of the algebra and the formula, the way that we were just doing it, in which case this time I don't know what B is, so I'm just going to call it XY for now. So I'm going to do the same as I've always done. So find the X coordinates. Now I don't know the X coordinate of what I'm trying to find, so I'm going to have to write X over 2 and then use the Y coordinates and add them together. And again, I don't know the second one, so I've had to just put Y. But I do know this time that the midpoint is 3 minus 1, so I can make it all equal to 3 minus 1. And now I can solve that. So I know that the X part of this is equal to 3. And I know that the Y part is equal to -1. So 6 plus X divided by 2 is equal to 3. And I can find X. So you can use your NSolve on your calculator, and that will help you to find the value of X. And in this case, if you use your nsolve, so menu, algebra, nsolve, and then you type in 6 plus x divided by 2 equals 3, and you need to put comma x to remind it to find x, then you would find that x is equal to 0. And then we can do the same with the y. So 4 plus y divided by 2 is equal to minus 1. And again, if you were to put that into your nsolve, then you would be able to find that y was equal to minus 6. So that's one way to do it, which is the algebra. The other way to do this is to think about it more visually. When we look at the difference between a and m, so this is the y values, I've gone from 4 to minus 1. So that means that I've took off 5. And then in the x direction, I've gone from 6 to 3, so that means that I've took off 3. And that means that if it's a midpoint, I need to do exactly the same again, so taking off 5 from y and taking off 3 from x, and that will help me get to coordinate b. So that means that from minus 1, which was the y value, I need to take off 5, and that will take me to minus 6. And then from the 3, I need to take off 3, and that will get me to 0. So then I can find the same answer, which is 0 minus 6. So you can either do it with the algebra, or you can do it visually. Either method would be fine.